Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to the inaugural episode of From Entry Level to the C-Suite podcast. Here you will engage with leaders from various industries, those that may have who have started entry level and made it all the way to the C-suite. They are going to share their stories, their challenges. But again, what is most important, they will help to convey to you the value and importance of executive presence. I'm so honored to have as my first guest of this episode that I hope will transform lives, and that is the amazing modern Renaissance woman, Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds. Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds, welcome to the inaugural episode. Thank you for joining me today.
Dr. Wilson, thank you. And congratulations on this inaugural podcast. I am so excited for you because I know all that you bring in this space, a space that really needs it now more than ever. I've known you for decades and you've been nothing but a consummate professional. Your book, this best-selling book, has really blessed and helped a lot of people. And so for you to take this from the pages of your book and bring them into people's homes and their offices via their computer and this podcast, I'm really excited for you. So congratulations, and I'm honored to be your first guest.
Well, thank you. It is indeed my honor. I thought it important to share with the world. Hopefully we will have global viewers for this podcast. But I'm having constant conversations with individuals, of organizations, leadership, and then hearing a reoccurring theme where people have prepared themselves, whether they've earned their degrees or certifications, or they just immediately went into the workforce with whatever knowledge or skills that they had. But they're still having some challenges. There's a disconnect along the way. We are now in a climate where it is an employer's market instead of employees, and we have thousands and thousands of individuals that are looking for employment, and they're trying to, what's my niche? What's my characteristics or my traits that allow me to stand out? And what I train and educate on, as you so well know, is on the topic of executive presence, which is a compilation of the healthy practice or execution of one's emotional intelligence, being able to effectively communicate, and then, of course, having a professional aesthetic that aligns with the moment or the environment that you are in. And so I thought it important to educate individuals on a grander scale as to why those skills, or those pillars, if you will, are so important. And the application is not just specific to those that exist within the C-suite, because people become anchored on that word executive. But instead, it is applicable to any professional, whether you're entry level, mid-level, or going into the C-suite. Everybody expects you to effectively communicate, to be able to manage your emotional intelligence, and that you be aware of that, and then certainly to show up in a professional aesthetic. And so you embody all of those pillars, those skills, those qualities. And so I absolutely said she must be my first guest on this podcast. Briefly tell our viewers a little bit about your background, and then we'll delve a little more specifically as how that executive presence has played out. But give us just a brief sketch on where you started, and then where you are today as it relates to your professional position.
Thank you. I'm a lawyer by training. I've been a licensed attorney for over 30 years, nearly 35 years now. I started my career as in the Attorney General's office as an assistant attorney general. I'm a former prosecutor. I've also made history when I was the governor's lawyer, Governor Roy Barnes, serving as the first African-American in Georgia and in this nation to serve as the top lawyer for the governor. And then I went on to be on the bench, serving for 8 years in Fulton County as a state trial court judge. I'm also and then even in the summers when I was clerking, I clerked at big law firms. And so that gave me the first glimmer of what executive presence sort of looked like when you're talking about big law. Big law means those are those law firms that represent corporations in that ecosystem. And so then from there, I went on to earn and gain my PhD, where I taught in the University System of Georgia at the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies at Georgia State University. But I also owned my own syndicated show. It was a judge show. And it was important to say I owned it because I'm an entrepreneur as well. And that's very, very important. And then I got a call from the White House to serve in the Biden-Harris administration, running a civil rights division as acting assistant secretary for civil rights in that office, and also the chief EEO officer for over 117,000 employees in over 4,500 offices throughout the world. And now I am moving from that service to public service, as I just recently received the Democratic nomination for Secretary of State in the state of Georgia. So that's a really snapshot. I was president and CEO of my own foundation, and I own a business called Divine Destiny, a productions company, and also a boutique consulting firm where we have a wide variety of consulting services that we provide. So in the business realm, I've touched corporate, I've touched public, and then entrepreneurship. So I think that I have a wide realm of experiences, which really leans into what is going to be needed during times such as this. And we can get into that a little bit more. But that's my bio briefly. I'm also an ordained pastor. I have a master's degree from the Interdenominational Theological Center, where I've served for 28 years. I was licensed and ordained at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is the spiritual home of Dr. Martin Luther King. Thus, I am a civil rights lawyer training with Dr. Joseph Lowery, C.T. Vivian, who was the architect of the civil rights movement. And so that's me in a nutshell.
Actually a nutshell, quite a bag of nuts, if you will.
And I've written 5 books. How about
Yes,
that?
you
And I
have.
have an Emmy nomination. So.
Yes, you have. And
Yes.
again, as long as we've known each other, and we have mutual respect for one another and the work that we've done, I still marvel at what you have been able to include in this wonderful life that you have. Notwithstanding that, life does not present us with challenges, but you are very fervent and committed to whatever it is that you do. And so if it pops in your head and this is something that I need to accomplish, you do it. You do it. You absolutely do it. Congratulations on being the Democratic nominee for the Secretary of State. A few more months ahead, but I'm super excited about this entire endeavor that you have taken on. And at such a time as this, we need a Judge Penny Brown Reynolds to manage and lead this agency. It's so very important. We'll touch upon that a little bit later, but I'd like to dive into the questions. And the first set of questions will focus on your professional journey and your leadership lessons. I'm going to try to manage without these glasses today. Throughout your career, you've held positions that as you've just shared, with increasing responsibility and influence. If you had a minute to look back, what experience, challenge, or opportunity accelerated your growth as a leader more than any other?
I think that from being in the civil rights realm, I understood going on the inherent biases that are built into the system. And it's not just those surrounding race, but also those surrounding sex and gender. And so what I understood for me, the greatest challenges became the greatest lessons, because I was determined not to allow those inherent biases that I could not control to deter me. It meant that I was going to have to work harder, albeit not fair to do so. But it was just, you have to learn how to adapt in the system and deal with what you're dealt with. So for me, every success, every place that I've gone in, I went in with the attitude that no matter what I was faced with, no matter how the microaggressions were there, no matter
Yes.
what I had to be faced with, I had a level of respect for myself. And then there are just some people that cannot conceptualize a certain level of excellence. And you can't sit around waiting for them to validate what you already know that you bring to a space. And so every challenge, as I look back over everything that I have done, has really been the thing that propelled me to even going higher, because I never was sad about being underestimated. I always saw it as a superpower. And I was underestimated, not because of my education, not because, but it was these inherent biases that we
Sure.
have in our society. Because I truly understand the mindset of people who are not able to respect others. Because as a
Mm.
civil rights person, I've devoted my whole life to those who are marginalized and the equal protection of those under the law. And so when someone doesn't have the ability to respect a person, they're really internalizing and projection their own doubt and self. They have no self-worth. And so I've learned how to deal with people as much as I learned how to deal with myself.
Excellent. Those are really great points. I'll be 60 this year, and I'm still learning that lesson about the how often people project their insecurities, their sense or lack of value, and that might be self-imposed. And I understand about conditionings and environments. And the lessons that they have been taught, as my mother would say, sitting on their mother's knee, whispering in their ears. So I understand that they bring that on to the table. It still absolutely can be debilitating for others when you project that onto others. Extremely frustrating. And then some people, and I've been guilty of this. Then you begin to put that projection on, almost like an ointment. You absorb it. And so you always have to be mindful. So I applaud that you have just always remained very vigilant about understanding and placing those lines in the sand, if you will, that is not Dr. Penny Brown's Reynolds issue. That is your experience and your backgrounds, and you are projecting that onto me, because it certainly, and I've seen it play out in the workforce and have an impact on overall success.
Thank you for that. I play the long game all the time.
Okay.
And I think that's the part. And that really comes, I think, from an abundance of my faith being a very great part of who I am. I have steadfast consciousness. I know that no matter what I'm dealing with, this is all temporary. And I never tried to separate where I am in the business realm or the professional realm from who I am as a person.
Okay.
And so I understand the long game. And if anybody can do anything, they could say that this is just a snapshot of what you may be going through in the workplace now, but it does not define the long game.
Yes.
And I stay focused on what it is that I'm there to accomplish and what is my long-term goals. I think if people could do that, no matter what happens, I go to bed the next day and I take it like that's a short-term situation. I'll deal with it and then I can move on. It's just been my way. It's been my survival, to be honest with you.
Sure. Before we go to the next question, I just want to highlight my observation of you doing that firsthand. And so when you were working for Department of Civil Rights with
USDA.
USDA. Thank you so much. Had a loss of the title. When you're working with the USDA and you did, as all great leaders do, you come in, you do an assessment, you conduct lots of listening sessions with top leadership, those that are actually in the day-to-day operations of it. And then based upon that, you said, here is where we are, but here is where we absolutely need to go and be. And this is going to have to be a collective effort. Here's some expectations. What I was impressed, and so people may be thinking, well, that's what you should always do, but that does not always happen. And so people they say they have a vision, but there are no steps, there's no pathway designed to get to the vision, or there's no opportunity for there to be collective buy-in, or there are false expectations, or there's a lack of understanding. And so you as a leader understood that I have a large group of people that I'm responsible for leading. And oh, by the way, we were coming out of COVID. Yeah. So that dynamic within itself. So what I was exceptionally impressed with is that you understood that I have a large number of people who are at different stages in terms of their emotional intelligence, their understanding of how the importance of, or perhaps not, the value of being an effective communicator, and then thirdly, the professional aesthetic. And so you laid that out from the very beginning, that we must be a top tier organization. And if you have not felt that about yourself or this organization, now is a time in which we're going to shift. So it was a very impressive charge, and you were willing to meet them where they were, but then you also laid out the plan that, and here's a timeline. And so that has always stood out because I've worked with other leaders at other organizations, and they epically fail at doing that.
That's a good point. I own the vision. A lot of leaders come in, and the difference between really being able to accomplish what you need to accomplish, they'll come in with great ideas and they'll come in with visions and they pass it on to someone else.
Sure.
And they never continue to own that vision. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, you have to get the competent people in to be able to do that. Like, for example, I knew what I had a vision to do. There was training. So I was trying to meet people where they were. We brought your company in to do training for us. Because when I thought about the person who provided me with advice, got me ready for my interviews, when I went through a series of 8 interviews to work and in the sub cabinet and the cabinet of the president of the United States, and you helped me to do that. I then wanted to meet the people where they were. Because when you come into an organization, in order to have buy-in, then that means you have to respect where they are and then find out what they needed. And for us, you came in and provided weekly training to people in a wide variety. Something as simple as this. We're online, and a lot of people were working virtually as a result of COVID. There was a level of professionalism that did not need to be compromised just because we were online. Right. And so something as simple as, what do you wear when you're online, and the decorum that you use, you were able to really convey that to high reviews because you have to survey and constantly check. And so the services that you provided, I thought were imminent. I mean, it was so critical because I brought you in and some other people, because training is so key. You can have a vision, you can't snap your fingers and then believe that people are supposed to just implement it. They may need to be trained to get to where you need to have them to be. We turned around an agency that had challenges for decades, but it did not happen overnight. Painstakingly, I took the first 90 days to listen, to find out where the deficiencies were, to use technology, but also understand that training is an integral part of what we're doing. We want to now have a quick fix. We want to read your book and think that's all we need. Maybe you need a little bit of help. Maybe the book might just do it, but maybe you can retain your services, perhaps, to just have 6 sessions or to have someone, not a life coach, but a professional coach. Another thing, Dr. Wilson, I don't think people do. People don't spend enough time investing in their own future.
Yes.
And I made certain that the executive coaching that you provided to individuals, that on a weekly basis, we gave that to all of the employees who would come. Because at some point you get to a higher level, you have the opportunities to have those services. But I wanted to do something different. Because when they feel valued and they could get someone of your caliber that they never would have gotten before, what it did was it made them feel good about where they were. And so I want to just publicly thank you for the services that you provided at that level for the United States Department of Agriculture, particularly in that space, because those weekly sessions made the difference and it taught them things that they never would have been able to get otherwise. So thank you for that.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. Thank you for extending me the invitation. I know you could have selected other consulting firms to come and do that. So it was certainly an honor for me. But that it speaks to, as you just said, or alluded to, not making assumptions. And so when you enter an organization as an employee, the leadership cannot assume that they have the entire toolkit, if you will. in terms of being able to execute the successfully perform and provide the service or deliverable. And organizations are learning that. So now it's a big topic of workforce readiness. You've earned the degree, you have the certification, you have the requisite training, but then entering in that space, they're discovering that there are some deficiencies, as you spoke of. So thank you for that. My second question that I have for you: every successful leader encounters setbacks, disappointments, or moments of doubt. Can you share an experience that challenged you professionally and what it ultimately taught you about leadership and resilience? I think you've authored the resilience part.
Yes, I did a book called Unstoppable.
Yeah.
That's the last book that I have. What took me aback is I have done a lot of different things, a lot of different careers, and that is uncomfortable for people.
Mm.
People want you to be in a box, or they want you on a career path. And when you don't follow that script, because I operate in many lanes, I didn't realize that that was not the norm because that's who I am. I don't look at my resume and say, wow, I've done all of that. If I've done this for so long, my mother taught me I didn't have to pick one thing. And I use all my gifts and talents. And I was just really astonished that even when people introduce me, they'll make jokes about my title and they'll say, well, she has so many titles. And that's to be honored, not to be
Oh,
made a joke
absolutely.
of, because they just really don't understand that they have the same opportunities as well.
Sure.
A lot of people have what I call inherited courage. They claim they have courage that maybe their parents may have given them and told them, if you get your education, then you can do this or that. It takes a lot of courage. I'm a brave person. I think if you had to name my attributes, I have the bravery to be able to not concern myself about looking like I'm a failure. That never comes into my mind because I'm always going to make it no matter what. But I think I was astonished at people who tried to, when I first got to USD, I'll never forget this, one of the directors there, when she decided to introduce me, she was trying to be shady. And so she indicated that, oh yes, and she's a reality television star. And it's like, I was very gracious because I'm always gracious. My mother taught me how to be that way. And I said, that's only one sliver of what I am. And I
Mm.
never was a reality star. I owned an $8 million company that was syndicated. But let me tell you who I am. I have
I
an
love it.
earned PhD. And then you immediately have to go
Sure.
into it. But it's always they're wanting to set you up because they are feeling so inadequate at the thought of a person having done all of these things and have them done well. I was really surprised by that. This is
Sure.
America. We're supposed to be able to do everything we want to do.
Until we attempt to do everything that we want to do.
And then they want to
Yeah,
block it.
then I need you to go back into that box. What I
Yeah.
love that you just in that that you provided or what you demonstrated, that's a better word choice, is the importance of being self-aware and being aware of others. That's that whole pocket, if you will, of emotional intelligence. That's at the core of it. And what those triggers are, you certainly could have responded in a way that would not have been flattering for you or for the moment. But it's about, again, that self-awareness and then having the understanding and what you have shared with us on a grand scale that you're dealing with people and they're coming to you with their experiences, some of them unfortunate, some of them not. But again, through a lens of, I never encountered a Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds before. And so I don't know how to engage. And because of that, and then also that element of fear too. And this frightens me. This is something new. And it's oftentimes an affront to what I have been taught and conditioned to believe about when a woman, a Black woman, a woman with all these credentials, it's just such an anomaly to so many different people when it is the norm for so many different people. I mean, meaning you and I and others. So that ability to be able to respond in a way that still helped you to maintain or execute your executive presence is paramount. And that's something that we have to constantly work at or be mindful that I may have to pull it out. And what I always educate others on is normalizing those behaviors so that when you do encounter those moments like that, then you can respond accordingly. Thank you for that response. Executive presence begins long before someone enters the room. How has emotional intelligence shaped your effectiveness as a leader, particularly during challenging moments or periods of uncertainty?
Yeah, we are in a climate right now of uncertainty. Self-awareness is not just self-awareness internally, being a reflective person I am. I should have in many ways been an anthropologist
Hmm.
because I love studying people. Being on the bench for almost a decade, a judge doesn't do a lot of talking. We do a lot of listening. And I'm a listener anyway, because I have a compassionate heart. That's from being a pastor. So with all the different things I've done, it's equipped me to try to meet people where they are, try to understand people as best as I can. You can start to see some patterns after a while. We are in a very volatile climate right now. So you know that people are bringing a great deal of their anxieties that have nothing to do with us personally
Sure.
when they engage with us. Like you just made a very good point about fear. And so going into it, you have to stay very grounded in who you are and have that emotional intelligence to understand that if they don't know you personally, then most of the time you can't take whatever they're projecting to you personally. I'm not saying that it's easy. I always have these moments when, like when the lady did that to me, I just thought, bless her heart. It's like you're doing the very best you can. And I have to be honest, a lot of times we attribute a lot of intelligence to people when it's ignorance. They just really don't
Absolutely.
know.
Well
They
said.
just don't know. We don't want to use those words, but they just
That's the
don't know. They
reality.
don't they
Yeah.
don't understand what to say and how to say. But I think right now, understanding the climate, we are in a very divided country. We're in a divided country where corporations are struggling themselves. Not the billionaires are doing well, but we're in a situation culturally where everybody's just holding their breath
Yes.
and just hoping to get by. And during times like that, you have to stay very, very centered on who you are, all that you have accomplished, and not look for validation in
Mm.
spaces that employ you. That is the biggest issue that I think. And listen, everybody needs a paycheck. Let's be real. We're talking philosophical, but let's bring it down
Of
to the real
course.
part. Now, we want to feel safe and we want stability, particularly women. That's a big thing for us, and men too. Heads of households where there are men, and then heads of households where there are women. And that brings a sense of anxiety. You're perplexed, particularly when you know that you are experienced and highly educated and the one for the job.
Sure.
And you're dealing with people who don't have your educational experience, who for whatever reason just the only power that they feel is somehow believing that they have power over you.
Absolutely.
And that can be a challenging situation. I honestly mean this, and I can't say this and stress this to anyone who's listening today. I put a force field around myself. I have to. That force field means that every time I'm in an environment, and it was hard, think about it, I had to have over 500,000 people decide to vote for me, right? And so I couldn't take comments that they make when they don't even know me personally. I had to know who I am going into every situation. When I went to Washington, D.C., there's a Southern kind of bias, right? And
Sure.
then think about where I've come from. They would used to try to bring up in a meeting to me about the housewives of Atlanta. Is it really like that? And I would quickly say I wouldn't know anything
How
about
would you
that.
know? Yes.
Well, I mean, how would I know that? I
Yeah.
don't even watch television half the time. And so it's just really understanding that a lot of people are broken, Dr. Wilson. They're carrying the trauma from their childhood. And that doesn't stop just because they're in the workplace. If
Hmm.
anything, it's the place where they spend most of their time. So
Yes.
I really think it would behoove people more to study people, to read some books about people, and get to know how they think about things so you can meet them where they are.
I love that. May I also add, in addition to the studying others, that whole self awareness piece, that determines your how long you stay in a role, the level of success that you have in the role. It influences how you engage with others. So that's one piece of it. But the other piece, because we know that you are challenged, then I cannot beg people enough to seek support as it relates to mental health, wellness, understanding, counseling. The list goes on. Because you being self aware is one thing, but then taking the action to develop and to improve is another. And so you have guided me along the way and certainly been a key advisor in my own professional growth and development. And just you said something earlier and reminding me, Dr. Wilson, remember these are people that have childhood trauma and have experienced had experiences that were debilitating that they did not heal from. But here they are in the workplace. Here they are leading others. So do not then personalize that and begin to question, are you enough? Are they deserving of your excellence? So I thank you for bringing that up and then reminding me of that. That is so important. And so we're going back to what we originally started with, how so many organizations just expect that you are able to check all the boxes and then come in and then behave. And they're seeing so many people absolutely do not know how to do that. And so then it becomes their responsibility. It's incumbent upon them to play a role in getting that done or correcting that. You owe that to your employees. Just as much as they owe you the effort that will go into providing them with a service or a product. My next question, throughout your career, communication has undoubtedly played a critical role in your success. What communication practices have helped you to build trust, credibility, and influence your diverse stakeholders that you engage with?
For me, it's been preparation. I make everything look easy because I have prepared before. I didn't come to this interview ill prepared.
Sure.
I prepared myself. I read articles before. I think that we're living in a society of grifters now at the highest level, performative people who do the least of what they can do to get the most out of the situation. With the advent of AI, and we're so happy for it, you can create a resume that has nothing to do with your skill set. And you're put in an environment, if you can speak well enough, then, it's making it harder for people. And I think that's why the job market is making it much harder, because they're using technology now to screen out people. And we're not really seeing, I wish we could go back to the times when you had interviews with panels and people could really understand that. But you get screened out of a job just by virtue of how these resumes are put together.
Sure.
But we have nothing but grifters and people. The people who are struggling the most, the people who are the most competent, to me. Grifters don't struggle in environments like this. They just keep moving on to the next thing. And so I think that it is just very, very important to stay prepared. For me, communication is everything. I think that these tools are available to you, but then you have to do the background work that comes with it. You have to show up completely prepared all the time.
Absolutely.
It's not about outworking people. People often say that to me, no one will outwork me. I don't like that, because there was a day about 30 years ago, I thought I had to outwork everyone, be the first person in the office, the last person to leave. I work smarter now. And that's when I lean in to think about now how things are. You have at your disposal on your computer. This is a computer. It's not
Indeed.
a telephone. It is a computer. At any moment in time, someone uses a word that you don't understand. Someone is thinking about whatever it may be. You can in an instant research it. But shame on you. It's almost professional malpractice to engage in an environment, whether it's a podcast, an interview, your first day on the job, and you not with all of the resources that are available, you not prepare yourself. As a communicator, you have to prepare to communicate. You'll never see me find words or look for words, because I have practiced the art of communicating to others. Number two, I'm very authentic in who I am. And so we're living with performative people who people can really tell a phony a mile away. Now, Maya Angelou says you can tell what you know. You don't have to tell all you know. So familiarity is not what you need to do in a professional environment, but there is a level of authenticity that you bring, but that comes from being secure in who you are.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Wow, you reminded me the preparation piece. Melody Hobson, who is a co-CEO of Ariel Investments and just like yourself, a modern day Renaissance woman, has now spoken and addressed large bodies on the topic of the importance of diversity and inclusion. She has a finance and banking background. Having said all of that, she was asked the question, how do you work against imposter syndrome? Is it a factor in your life? And she said it is a non-factor, and here's why: I prepare. So as long that I'm prepared, it's not in alignment with being an imposter, because I have rehearsed, I've researched, I have studied, and so I am extremely familiar. And I took note of that. That has always resonated with me. And then even when I see her speaking now, she is a presenter, or she's weighing into a conversation, she's always going to have pen and paper. So I don't know if she's referring to notes or taking notes, but she stays in that learning mode to, again, overcome any thoughts of, am I ready for this particular moment? Of course I am, because I prepared for it. Yeah, that is
That's a
so
good
important.
point. I didn't know that she said that. For me, I've always
Mhm.
been prepared. I've never suffered from imposter or anything. Part of
Excellent.
it is also my faith. I
Yes.
absolutely believe that every place I am, I'm supposed to be there. And when I'm not supposed to be there, I'm not there. That's another key. That's
Mm.
really giving away, no matter, let's say I've applied for jobs. If I don't get it, I never think it's me. I think that it was not where I was supposed to be. It's not the best use of my destiny, that there is something greater for me. And another thing, too, my mother used to always tell me, everybody can't handle the personality that I have. And you have to be willing to understand that everyone's not going to like you. One might not think you're a good fit for the culture that they have. They may think you might shine a little bit better. I'll give you an example. Went to apply when I thought I wanted to be in academia. I was in academia, but at the level of administration. And when I applied for one of the presidencies, I remember the search firm telling me when I was in the top 3 that your presence would be larger than the institution, and we can't have that. That the institution must always be prominent and not you. And so a lot of times here you are not getting a position because they need someone who will fold into an institution. And maybe our light or your light or my light may be too great for the environment. So it's never, remember, I think of the long game. And the long game is that's a snapshot in a particular environment that may not be the best fit for me. I'll break it all the way down because my students used to say at Georgia State that I could teach a second grader anything. I had a potted plant. They were 2 balls, these beautiful balls, greenery on my front porch. And I loved them. They had been there for about 7 years and they started dying. And the guy that handles my yard kept saying, I said, put fertilizer on it. I kept getting him to do everything. We kept doing everything. He even went and got another pot for it. And it still wouldn't do it. And then he looked at me. Now, this is not an educated man. And he just said, you have to understand that that plant no longer can be in this environment. As much as you might want it, you don't want to let them go. But it is obvious that even after it outgrew the pot it was in, right? So sometimes you outgrow the environment. You might like it, you might be comfortable. We changed the pot. Everything was going well. A year later, even after changing the pot, he came back and he says, I just think that it's not going to work here anymore. So we had to move it from the place where there was a lot of sunshine and we moved it to another area. But that taught me a valuable lesson that no matter how much I wanted it to stay in that pot, no matter how much I enlarged the pot, thinking that was the issue, that it was something outside of my control.
Yes.
As to why I wasn't able to keep that plant. So the same holds true in our careers.
Oh,
Sometimes it's
absolutely.
just time to move to a bigger pie.
Yes.
It's time to move. Anyway, that's my second
Now,
grade.
thank you, Dr. Brown Reynolds, for putting a mirror in my face. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's talking to me. Yeah, we are guilty of that because of comfort, familiarity, and should have long since we've long since outgrown that environment. But it's what we know. You've had those conversations with me countless times. I have them with myself. But again, it's that comfort and familiarity. I love that analogy of the plant, and that he was able to educate you on how it's important to do something different. But even in doing something different, there are just those pillars again, those core skills, those attributes, those characteristics that are wherever you move, entry level to C-suite, that it is expected for you to then demonstrate, behave, and apply in those moments. My next question for you: professional appearance often communicates before we ever speak. What role has personal presentation played in establishing credibility, confidence, and influence throughout your career?
It's a great question. And people might think it might be a superficial question, but just do the research and the data. The data shows that people who smile more are
Yes.
perceived to be more intelligent. Period. That's what the data shows. If
Sure.
you just do some research on that. Professional appearance is everything to me, because we used to always say, you only have one time to make a good first impression. And so what I can say to people when you're coming on a brand new job, whether it's entry level or you're transitioning from one level to the other, you set the standard of who you are based on your personality. And having it all together on the outside really is an indicator that you have it together on the inside.
Indeed.
And so personal appearance is just critical. It tells me a few things. It tells me that you are a professional and that you understand. It gives me the seriousness of the matter. We're dealing with a lot of unserious people today. And so it just tells me there's a laid back feeling now after COVID. Everybody's kind of laid back. But I think that your appearance and wearing business suits versus casual attire, it's how you're put together, whether it's your nails or for women, how you treat your hair. You know what that tells me? That if you value yourself, that means as an employer, I would look at you and say, that means you'll value the work that you do. That means that you value the person or the entity that pays your paycheck. And so it's a longer realm. And it really gives you self-confidence and self-worth to know that I want to project. Before people even hear our voice, they see us, unless they're visually impaired.
Sure.
And I have to always remember that because I'm in civil rights. But oftentimes people will see you before and they make assumptions about you. We say this to young people all the time. When you're putting a tattoo across your neck or someplace that is visible and you're in the workplace, if judgments are made based on that body art, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I think it's independent if that's what you want to do. But be prepared for these inherent biases that you cannot control. And so if you want to have body art, maybe it may behoove you to put it in a place that if you cover it, you can still have an expression of your personhood, right? Which I believe is so important to freedom. But that we just have to understand in certain environments, in some places it may not matter. But let's say in more conservative, in the law or in banking or more conservative fields, it just may. So I think that appearance goes with a whole lot, including the body, your body art. It goes with how you take care of yourself. You just project that I have it all together. And that's the biggest thing that you want to do, because what does it say? Competence. And people want to do business with people who are competent. People want to hire people who are competent, not just shoveled and they don't look like they have it together.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I want to do starting into the difference between the generations. We won't go down that road, but that's a very important lesson, particularly with those demographics that have really embraced body art or body piercings or all of those things. I do a lot of training with a lot of young people, and I always hear, Dr. Wilson, I just really want to be my authentic self. And that has nothing to do with the performance or my role in the job. And I said, but what you need to understand is when you join an organization, whether it be a boutique firm, whether it be a billion-dollar conglomerate, you're a part of that, you are then a part of that brand. And so you were then identified as General Motors or Kroger or the Penny Brown Reynolds Foundation. And so once you then build or establish that relationship or that connection, it is then it's the thought of that entity or that enterprise that we be in alignment. So if I ask that you wear a uniform every day and that uniform be a polo shirt and a pair of khaki pants, and you agree once you accept that job that you're going to do that, you don't get to then deviate from that script.
Yes, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. And I want to hear you if you elaborate on that a little bit. And where I see organizations then drop the ball is they're not having that conversation with individuals early on. They do the briefing. Here we have a dress code. Some organizations may not even say that they do, but it's just unexpected. And then they get frustrated when they see that their employees are not adhering or not in alignment with what they desire them or the way in which they desire them to present themselves, but they've not had that level of education or instruction with them.
Well, that's the whole point of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why it's so dangerous when you get rid of that. It is just not about, it is about everything that a person brings. Think about in America, we had to have an act called the Crown Act.
Yes.
We had to have law, legislation that said we're not going to discriminate against you just based on how you wear your hair, whether it's braids or whatnot. That went directly, usually to Black women.
Sure.
That's what we had to do. We had to legislate people understanding that, yet companies dropped and so easily fell in line when we had an administration that wanted to do away with DEI, because they don't understand that, because they coined it a certain way instead of saying, wait, this is an important way for you to understand that people can do the job in certain places. That maybe if there's a branding issue and they're your frontline people, you may not want to have body art, but you can work in IT or but what you cannot do is you cannot change when you're coming into a company. I think it is very important that you're making the point that then don't go work in that company. You're not happy with their policies, then go work somewhere else.
You have options. You have options. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But anytime we had to have a law passed that said the discrimination of women in how they wear their hair was just really, it's just against equal protection. If we could all go back to the law, this is why I love the law, that we're supposed to treat everyone equal, but we know it's not happening. But especially in the workplace, there are laws that protect individuals. But I think I had a student at Georgia State, he had been wanting to get with the Secret Service. He was in a criminal justice class and he kept not being able to get it. He had long dreadlocks. And I told him, I gave him an assignment. And I told him, you go and find pictures of anyone in Secret Service who has dreads. And you come back to me and you show me that. Do your research. And he came back and he said, I think I'm going to have to cut my hair. I said, no, you don't have to cut your hair. But if you want to be in the Secret Service, you may have to. See, we can't pretend that they're taking away our freedoms because you have the freedom not to work there.
Absolutely.
And if you don't want to work there. Now, we're hoping that times can change. That's why we get leaders, right? That leaders that can take laws and policies and say, wait, we want something different. But when you are in a posture of being the employee, then you have to follow the rules of, as long as they're lawful, of an agency. He cut his hair, he got the job, he's with the Secret Service now. And I wanted him, I met with him a couple of times and I said, if this is a part of your identity, then don't do it.
Yes.
He said, no, ma'am, but I always dreamed of doing it. And nobody was willing to tell me this but you. Sure. He had a beard and everything. He shaved all of that off. And I checked in with him because he called me once I won. And he just said, your advice was the best advice I'd ever gotten. And it was letting me know that I did have a choice.
Absolutely.
But I made the choice for me because this was my dream.
Sure. I love that you also, I imagine that he also learned, because we place so much identity on the physical or on the aesthetics, but that's not who we are. Yeah. And so your hair is, a part of what makes us attractive or connects us to whatever. It's an identifier, but it's not our sole identifier. And it sounds like that's what he learned, that his passion for wanting to serve in that role trumped the style
Yeah,
of his hair. And he could, possibly get in there and then affect change once now that he's in there. And then they then possibly
change the
discover,
policy.
yeah. But let's get our foot in the door. Let's transition quickly to workforce readiness and career success. If you were advising a recent graduate, you just gave us an example of that, or early career professional during the first 90 days on the job, what three pieces of advice would you offer to help them establish, again, that credibility and position them for long term success? You talked about playing the long game.
The 90 days when you start a position is the most critical period that you will ever find on a job. It's the most critical period. Number one, people are learning you and watching you.
Yes.
So it's going to be important. Number two, timeliness is critical.
Okay.
Tells me a whole lot about you when you don't think enough to be on time. And number three, always being prepared. You can't leave early. You always have to be eager. You always have to be willing to listen. You have to have those social skills. We have a lot of people that have social awkwardness. They don't know how to deal with people. That's a real piece.
Yes.
And so you have to come up with your own personalized 90-day plan. And so we know that when you're at the executive level, we're always asked to give us your 90-day plan, but you're at the entry level, you need 90 days. That means you would have researched who do you need to speak to while you're there? Who would you want to touch? Those are all of the things that I would do. I'd have my 90-day plan and I would call it people, places, and preparation. What do I need to prepare myself for the job? Where are the places that I need to make certain? What meetings must I attend? Even if I'm not invited to it, what do I do? What training places I need to go? And you need to map that out in the first 90 days. And people, is there a way for me to be in a space where I can meet the CEO? Are there Zooms I need to be on? How can I volunteer to make certain that I'm in certain places? So I advise anyone who's just getting into the workplace, before you do anything, take about 2 or 3 weeks. And really, that's where AI can come in and help you. Because you might say, I don't know how to do a 90-day plan. And honestly, I don't know if there is something you can put in artificial intelligence that says, I'm an entry level person. Can you give me a 90-day plan that can help me where I can meet the right people, be at the right place, and be prepared when the time comes? I think if you did that, that would be a game changer, because I doubt a lot of people know to kind of do that. That's what I did at USDA. I
I
had a
love it.
90-day plan. Yes.
I love it. And I specifically said the entry level because you're absolutely right. When you're at a leadership level, I know I need to come in and conduct listening sessions, get an understanding of what's going on, what hasn't happened, how does it align with the mission of the organization, all those things. But I want our young workforce, I want our entry level people to understand that that application is so important to what you do. Who's on the right of you? Who's on the left of you? Who sat in his seat before? Why were they not successful? Taking lots of notes. And thank you so much for bringing up the piece who a lot of people are that socially awkward piece. And I think our phones have a lot to do with that we lack. We're seeing an increasing number of people who lack social skills. They do not know how to have a conversation or to make full eye contact or to be inquisitive about the person that is before them and learning how their role impacts the environment. So again, being self-aware and that you need to take steps so that you can then in every way possible serve and benefit the organization and be very selfish, serve and benefit you because we want some long-term success. And it's yeah.
That's another thing I'd like to do. A lot of young people immediately walk up to someone and say, can you be my mentor? You need two things on a job. You need a sponsor and you need a mentor.
Yes.
But it takes about 90 days to establish that.
Mhm.
You have to do, in my 90-day plan, I made a decision to deliver one big thing that would get the attention of everyone around me so that they could understand that they could believe in my leadership. So if you come in, I had that down. For me, I ended up with 5 things, but because I wanted to blow it out the water. So if you're an entry level person, you figure out what is that one thing that you could do. Does it mean you stay a little bit later? Does it mean that if they ask you to do a report for 2 weeks, you do it for 3 weeks? What you want to do is establish within 90 days. They will establish a mindset of who you are in the workplace.
Sure.
And if you can do that, that will be embedded in the minds of the people that work with you. You want to find out what is that one thing I could do to show I'm a superstar. And you can figure that out. But don't go up to a person at a senior level immediately without knowing them and saying, well, I need a mentor. That develops over time. And there's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A sponsor is a person who will take you under their wing and really speak of you when you're not in the room. They're helping with your career track. A mentor is a person who's there to help guide you where you are in whatever place you're in. And so you'll want both of them by the time maybe that 90 days is out. You then move to the next phase of the career. And that's really establishing yourself with senior people who can help you. I'm sorry, I went a little bit over what you asked.
No. That was good. And that mentor piece is so important. I've had that. I know I can't imagine how many asks you've had in terms of being mentor. But people, what they fail to realize is that the onus of the relationship is actually on the mentee. They need to guide that. So with that relationship, coming to their mentor and saying, these are the challenges that I'm having. These are the 2 topics that I want us to focus on this discussion. I'm trying to get from A to Q. And so can you help me map that out based upon the skills that I have, the understanding, the experiences I have? They need to guide and facilitate that relationship, not just say, be my mentor, and then just sit back and wait. Yeah. On them to do it all. Yeah, there needs to be some guidance and direction. What is the one workplace skill, behavior, or professional habit that organizations can no longer afford to assume employees already possess? And what are the consequences when missing it?
Say that again. I want to hear you.
Absolutely. And I immediately thought of your USDA experience. What is the one workplace skill, behavior, or professional habit that organizations can no longer afford to assume employees already possess? And what are the consequences when the organization misses that?
Yeah, I think that's a really serious issue now for employers as they're making assumptions. We're seeing that it's not happening with workforce readiness. We're making an assumption that people are coming in ready for the job on day one.
Yes.
And if you make that mistake it's all about training. I think that it's not a one size fits all when people assume a position.
Sure.
It is imperative that you learn what is that person's skill set, because you cannot do it now from these resumes and from these interviews. You just cannot.
Yes.
And so it is imperative to find out what abilities and skills that employer has, and then get that employer trained immediately. We want them to go straight into work, and it has long-term detrimental consequences for employees and employers. And so it is imperative that we make assessments about their skill set, and then obviously we hired them if we thought that they had the ability to do the job, but they have to be trained on how to do it. I've watched over and over and over again, my division heads when I was at USDA, get a person in a position and throw them into the position. Remember, play the long game, taking the time to get the people trained. But before you can do that, you have to assess where they are and what skills they bring to the position. Sure. We cannot afford, and that's a very good part about what you just said. What can we ill afford? We cannot afford to have people on the position that are not trained to do the job.
I agree. And so we're talking about of course, the technical skill sets that they're looking for. But the other, and I've seen this having just many conversations, is that many organizations are now learning that they are having individuals that are walking through their doors, they've been hired, and they just lack understanding of social decorum or the expectations as it relates to how we should communicate, Or I responded to you, I sent you a text. Well, yeah. So that is what we're dealing with because of this device has just consumed us in so many different ways. They don't know how to respond in details or ask, what is your communication style, supervisor or manager? Do you want me to come and knock on your door and interrupt you? Do you want me to send you an email? So those are the challenges. And so they become so wedded to that then the competency piece almost takes a back seat because they're having to deal with so many of those issues. And I know you and I had some
Yeah.
conversations about that when you were in the USDA.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One of the things that I'm dealing with from a couple of places, our institutions are not thoroughly preparing our young people to work into the workplace. I'm trying not to
Absolutely
be
correct.
critical, but you
No,
were
that's a
at a high
reality.
level,
Oh
and
my
it is
goodness,
the
that's a
reality.
reality.
They don't even know. They come to interviews with club clothes on. I mean, I'm just
Yes,
being really honest with you. They don't know how to deal. So that's this is a problem that crosses over.
sure.
Otherwise, they can hire people like you, your consulting firm, or go to seminars. That's why I think Zoom is so good and YouTube. I wish maybe you could do some classes on this for people to understand how you walk into the professionalism. It's a malpractice. I call it that all the time
That's
because
good.
people are coming in and truly not understanding how to be professionals. There's almost a rebuke to being a professional now. There's something going on with this individualism that we're trying to break it with this new generation. And
Mhm.
I want them to be individuals. I want them to be who they are, but it's hurting them in the workplace. And they don't care. Sometimes I'm not casting aspersions with a broad brush, right?
Sure, understood.
It's just the pride of understanding. But I really do think our institutions should do a better job of having a course that's almost like a required 2-hour course that they start when they're fresh all the way
Mhm.
through the end. And that they were I know we're teaching soft skills now, but we're not teaching them at the level of what do you do when you go on at these institutions. And I don't think that burden should be placed on the employer to have to do it.
No, it's going to absolutely have to be a collaborative effort. And post-secondary institutions, K through 12, are going to absolutely have to start infusing that in their curriculum because it's having a reflection on the institution. Your graduate, your product that you are now moving into the workplace, saying that I graduated from XYZ university or college, they're not exemplifying or demonstrating what I expect a professional should have. Absolutely. Are they knowledgeable as it relates to technology or if they majored in computer science? But when you're coming in day two and you on the job and you're saying, hey, who do I need to talk to? Because I need to take the next 2 weeks off. Or I don't like to communicate via email. What's your telephone number so that I can text you and tell you what
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
communicate that way. So when you said soft skills, and I think needs to evolve. They are absolutely essential skills that we need to start incorporating in so many different spaces. And so fraternities and sororities should take a hand, civic organizations, all these things should play a role in preparing individuals for the readiness that is expected once they get into the workplace. Yeah.
I like that. And being the judge, I always have to see both sides to everything. Everybody is not wanting to be in this environment. That
Yes.
means then you become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So we're not trying to, Dr. Wendy Wilson and I are not in any way trying to suggest that if you are a person who says, I'm going to keep my dress, I don't want to have to deal with people, I don't want to be in that politically correct environment, then you don't have to.
You don't have to.
This is what we're trying to share is for people who made a decision that they'd love to be in corporate America or even in the small business. They'd like to
Sure.
be in consulting. They'd like to be in positions in the government that's going to require this. But if you're one of those people who feel that this is not for me, then it's not for you. Because we
Absolutely.
believe that you ought to find your truest self wherever you are. So I
Yes.
have to give that caveat
I
because we're
love
not
that.
having this for everyone. And
It's
everybody's
not.
not going to college either. You
It's
might
not.
own your own business or something. So
Yes, but even in those folks owning the business or going after that government contract, there are some expectations
yes, ma'am.
that
Yes,
expects you to be able to effectively articulate and
right.
communicate what the service of the product is. Yeah. You cannot sell me toothbrushes and I can tell that you have not brushed your teeth in a while. I need everything to be in alignment. I really do. My last question, and then we're going to go into what I love to call is our rapid fire round, and we'll wrap up. I've enjoyed this immensely. What is the one professional habit or behavior that can quietly derail an otherwise promising career or even business if you're going the entrepreneur route? What is the
Yes,
one professional habit or behavior that can derail you?
not keeping your word.
Mm,
Integrity still matters.
yes. Oh, that's so good. That's good. That's good. Rapid fire round. One word that best describes your professional brand.
Excellent.
Love it. When you leave a room, what do you want people to remember about you?
That I'm kind. That I'm a kind person.
Yes. What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Always be consistent in
Mm,
everything that you do. That builds your brand.
yes.
If you are always consistent, then people will expect that from you. And they'll understand that you're expecting something from them as well. So
Mm,
consistency in who you are and how you deliver results.
excellent. Excellent. What is your communication superpower?
The fact that I enjoy communicating with people. I often say you cannot serve the people if you don't love the people. I actually love people
I
and I love
know.
talking to them. So I think
Yes.
that, and I'm interested in them. You know, that's another key. I'm very interested in hearing what people have to say. I think
Yes.
it's my
Yes.
superpower.
I've observed you in many different rooms, and I'm working on this. You are such an active listener. So you lock eyes with people, your body language, and we all want this. You allow people to be seen. That is one of you.
It's
That is
very
one of you.
important. That's
Yeah.
touching my heart because all people want in this world
It's
is
to
to
be
be
seen.
seen. And so in my space, whenever but I am honestly interested in what people have to say to
Yeah.
me. That's
Yeah.
just a quality about me. I never get tired of it. I will stop everything that I'm doing to listen to someone, to
Yes.
pray with them. It's
Yes.
just a quality that I have because I
Yeah.
really am genuinely interested in
Yes.
seeing people where they are.
I know. I've been on the receiving end on both of those. So, yeah, you do that so well. That is one of your indeed superpowers. What signals professionalism to you?
How you treat others is very important to
Mm,
me in professionalism, particularly the higher up you go. If you treat people with respect, that is key to me.
excellent. Text, email, phone call, or face to face conversation? Which do you prefer and why?
Oh, that has changed now that I'm running for office. It used to be a phone call, but now it's texting because I know
Okay.
that I can have the convenience of seeing a person getting to me. So it gives people the ability to get to me all the time through a
Okay.
text. Where if I'm not available, I can't answer the phone. So that is a new development. And I get what
Mm,
the younger generation is
yes.
saying about texting. So now I really do like
Yes.
texting.
My issue with texting, and this is not my rapid fire, is sometimes it can be lost in translation. And you'll read it and you're like, what?
What?
What's the tone of that? Yeah.
You're making a good point. That
Yeah.
is
Then I'm ready to pick up the phone and let me just make sure I'm clear. Yeah. The next question. What is the most underrated professional skill?
being on time is
Mm,
completely underrated
mm.
because it all talks about can I depend on you? Are you consistent in what you do? And so being on time is underrated.
Good one. Who is a
Easy.
leader you admire and why?
President Barack Obama.
Mm,
Yesterday, his wife, Michelle Obama, for the first time, I believe ever, laid out who he was to all of us and the weight of what he had to
oh,
endure, but
gosh.
the graciousness and brilliance of who he was. And to see him, watch him, I watched it over and over again because I taped it, to watch him see his facial expressions and really understand that he understood and we understood what he had to do and
Yes.
how that he was there for all of us. And so President Barack Obama, without reservation. I
I
can
love
say.
that example. What I might take away from that, I watched it as well, is that you certainly then had a greater, if you didn't before, you have a greater appreciation of that 8-year presidency was a calling on his life. There is no other way that he could have executed that in the manner and fashion in which he did. That was divinely orchestrated. Yeah, yeah. How do you manage stress and maintain perspective during demanding seasons? Welcome to the campaign life.
I don't manage it as well as I need to in
Oh
all
my gosh.
how do I do it? I compartmentalize as much as I can,
Okay.
deep breathing exercises, and I haven't always been the best at it, but I don't take things personal. I think that's a big thing. Most of our stress is caused by things that are really outside of our control. If we just pull ourselves back, it's somebody else's issue usually. We're
Yeah.
getting caught up in something that really has nothing to do with us. So what I try to do is go over this recording in my head and really focus on what is the reality of the situation. And if you wake up tomorrow and things are the same, then is that enough to carry the stress with you? And so it's just constantly interacting with myself is the biggest thing that I could say. I think that I need to sleep better. Sleeping better is big and
Sure.
making
It's
certain you're
important.
staying hydrated. And so I've been under a lot of stress,
Yes.
but it was stress caused by other people, not stress by me caused by my destiny. I love what I'm doing. And when I sat back, I really realized that any stress that I'm feeling is because somebody around me is not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
And then I'm taking that on when it's not mine to own. So I'm
Okay.
going to do a better job of that, making certain that I realize, is this something that I'm creating or is this something that's being put on me from some other outside source? And when you can do that, at this point in my life, you said you turned 60. For me, I'm 65. I get to choose the next years of my life. And
Yes.
I don't want to carry anybody's stress. I don't want to do that. I'll be compassionate. I will listen. I will even help them walk through it. But it is not my burden to carry any longer.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, we love the show Scandal, and Olivia Pope, the character having the moniker of being the fixer. And that's cute to a certain point. Yeah, because people will come to you, excuse me, wanting you to fix the small and the behemoth. And it takes a
I
toll on you.
I have done the
Excuse me.
most impossible for the most ungrateful
Mm.
throughout my life. I've done the impossible for the most ungrateful. And so now I'm at a stage in my life where the only way I'm going to eliminate stress, because you can eliminate stress, my
Sure.
life carries no stress. And it's because he lives his life on his own terms.
Mm.
And I think women naturally are caregivers. I've spent my life doing it. So I'm doing a course correction in my own life right now
Wonderful.
as it relates to stress. And you have to make certain to put yourself first. You just have to. You just
Wonderful.
have to. You only get one life
We
to
only
live.
get it. Yeah, yeah. There are no do-overs. There are no do-overs. What is a daily habit that contributes most to your success?
Prayer
Prayer.
every day. It
Yeah.
keeps me centered, keeps
Sure.
me focused, keeps me consistent in everything that I do. It's prayer.
What is the one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I love to dance and I dance every day. It is just the thing I do. Nothing like music takes me out of character and lets me dance. I think people would be surprised of that.
You're a great dancer. I've seen you dance at a couple celebrations. Yes. I didn't know you did it every day, though. You just put something on
Yeah,
and
I put Alexa on. I say, Alexa, play. I have my songs,
I love
and
it.
it's let's say it's Usher, yeah, and I just start dancing. Even when I don't feel like it, I'll dance my way
Ah,
to the bathroom to get ready. It's kind of like that thing that how can you be sad if you're dancing?
it's a good point.
You can't be. You just can't be. So I wake up, I'll do my prayers, but no matter what happens, I put Alexa on and I'll say sometimes the music might be slower and I'll move a little bit slower. But it's just something about music that you can't be sad about. And I don't want to
Mhm.
be sad. I make a decision every day, Dr. Wilson, not to be sad. And I feel for people who struggle in that area, but it's
Yeah.
like anything else. You have to fight your way every day to your happiness. Every day.
I
It's a
love
struggle.
that. I
Every day you have to.
love that.
Oh,
I
wait, this is
love
supposed
that.
to be rapid fire. Okay.
Yes, and that's okay. That's okay. This is we're making the rules as we go along with this podcast. What do you hope your leadership legacy will be?
I think the biggest thing is I've always wanted to be an inspiration that whatever happened to me, everything that I've done, everyone is capable of doing it too. I don't think there's anything, I know people say it's extraordinary, but I just think that people don't want to work hard anymore, Dr. Wilson. And everything that I have accomplished, I had to work for it. We
Yeah.
have a generation that's taught do the minimal. But if you want to accomplish anything that you want, it remains a dream until
Mm.
you work for it. And once you work for it, listen, all the cracks in America, I always say that I'm the product of the American dream because, in spite of its cracks and deficiencies, I've maneuvered through the cracks to see this glimmer of hope and light. And I work hard.
You
I
do.
don't mind saying that. But guess what? I'm working for me when I'm working hard. No longer if I'm transferring all of my energy to something outside of me. I'm working hard. And as a public servant, I'm working hard for me to be the best person for others. But it all has to start with never resent having to work hard. See it as a work ethic that is just honorable. I get to use my limbs and I get to have my mind and I get to be there are people who are battling Alzheimer's and they just don't have that ability. I get to dance, which means I have my limbs. I just think that I see every aspect of what I'm having to do. That's why I do it with such joy because I actually see it as an investment totally in me. I
Mm.
am worthy. That little girl that travels with me by the name of Penny Marie, she couldn't control a lot of things when she was a little girl, but she gets to control being with this woman. And she could have only have dreamed, Dr. Wilson, of me being the person that I've grown up to be. I owe it to her and all those other people who are watching me to be the best that I can be. I believe that.
Well, you demonstrate that on a daily basis. I had a closing question, but your answer absolutely successfully is an ideal response to what I was going to ask. In essence, you answered the question without me even asking it. And so you and I have had an ongoing conversations about the little girls, the little Pennies, the little Wendy's that accompany us. And I am so honored and so proud that the little Penny has a close view of the conversations that you have with world leaders of sits on the stage with you as you engage with thousands and thousands of people, and whether you're ministering to them, whether you're giving them hope, whether you are assessing what the climate is, she gets to see, look what I have or will become. Yeah. That is so monumental. And I love and I'm so proud that you have given yourself permission to live the best life possible. Despite the odds, despite what folks thought or believed that you could not do, here you stand. And you, again, as I say this, not because of what we share, because it is fact, you epitomize everything that I teach and train on as it relates to executive presence. You embody it all and you give permission to others to be excellent. And those are qualities that I encourage and want people to have, whatever station they are in as it relates to their career and their journey and their path. Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds, I wish you continued success as you move forward. November is right around the corner. Best wishes. You've stood in front of that Office of Secretary of State. I just need them to put the key in your hand in January so that you can go in there and do the things that absolutely need to be done. And you share that you're 65. And I'm like, well, what will she be doing at 75, at 85? Can it get any grander than this? And I know that it can, and it will, and it will. So thank you for all that you are and that you do and allowing the world to share in that. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you for giving everybody permission. One of the things I do love, and I'll let you go, I give myself permission to just admire others without envy or jealousy.
Yes.
To hear you speak, I could sit here and just listen to your voice. You're
Oh,
so fabulously poised and articulate. And I just gain joy from that. And I think we need a little bit more of that with
yes.
people just giving themselves permission to be joyful for others and happy for who God has created for them to be. You don't take anything away from me. I can't take anything away
Mm.
from you just by being who we are. So thank you for letting me kind of watch on the sidelines and just get to admire all that you are doing.
Oh,
And it is just absolute. And really, you allowing God to allow you to walk into new
mm.
places because this is going to bless somebody. I'm so excited. So thank you for the honor of it. We've spent a lot of time on here, but
Yes.
I'm just happy. I've loved it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've loved it too. I absolutely had to have you as my first guest on the inaugural podcast, and you did it beyond measure as you always do. Viewers, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I will introduce you to countless other individuals that are paving their way or have done so in their respective paths, but understanding the value and the importance of the mechanics of executive presence, of career workforce readiness. We'll discover all of those attributes and qualities that have yielded their success. And they, as Dr. Penny Brown Reynolds has done, will share those challenges along the way, but how they were able to overcome them. I look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you again for joining me from Entry Level to the C-Suite podcast. I'm Dr. Wendy Wilson, your host. I'll see you next time.